Admiral Zira Blackwood stared at the holographic display floating above her desk, her weathered fingers drumming against the polished obsidian surface. The alien artifact they'd recovered from the Arctic ice shouldn't have been functional after 3 centuries of freezing temperatures. Yet here it was, humming contentedly on her desk, powered by nothing more than a modified car battery and what her chief engineer swore was, basically just a fancy USB cable. "Run that by me again, Dr. Harrison," she said, addressing the disheveled physicist who stood before her, still wearing his lab coat covered in coffee stains and what appeared to be experimental equations written in marker. "Well," Dr. James Harrison said, pushing his thick-rimmed glasses up his nose, "we figured out the power supply interface by noticing it looked surprisingly similar to my daughter's gaming console. The internal architecture is actually remarkably similar to Earth technology, just elegantly overcomplicated." Overcomplicated? Zira raised an eyebrow. "They built a quantum supercomputer to do what we accomplish with a basic microchip," Harrison explained, his eyes lighting up with that familiar scientific excitement. "It's like using a laser-guided missile to swat a fly. Sure, it works, but there are simpler ways." The artifact, a sleek communication device recovered from what they now knew was a Thalaxian scout ship, pulsed with a soft blue light. According to their initial analysis, it was supposed to require a miniature fusion reactor to function. Instead, it sat there running on technology that humans had mastered decades ago. "The Thalaxians will be here in 6 days, Zira reminded him. "They're expecting us to be primitive newcomers to the galactic stage. How do you suggest I explain this?" She gestured to the device. Harrison grinned, running a hand through his perpetually messy hair. "Tell them the truth. We looked at their technology and thought, this is neat, but what if we tried it backwards and with parts from Radio Shack?" Before Zira could respond, Dr. Priya Patel burst into the office, her tablet displaying streams of data. "Admiral, you need to see this. Remember how we couldn't crack their quantum encryption? My nephew was playing around with the communication patterns while doing his math homework, and he noticed something incredible." "Your nephew?" Zira felt a headache coming on. "How old is he?" 14, Priya beamed proudly. He said the encryption sequence reminded him of Fibonacci patterns in nature. He solved it using middle school math and a Python script he wrote during lunch break. Zira leaned back in her chair, looking between her 2 brilliant but increasingly chaotic scientists. "So what you're telling me is that humanity's first contact with advanced alien technology has resulted in us simplifying it?" "More like streamlining," Harrison corrected. "The Thalaxians built beautiful, complex systems. We just looked at them and asked, but why though?" The Admiral's computer chimed with an incoming message. The surveillance team had detected the Thalaxian diplomatic fleet entering the solar system, 6 days ahead of schedule. Humanity's first official contact with an alien civilization was about to begin, and they would arrive to find their lost technology not only functional but running on what amounted to spare parts and human ingenuity. "Well," Zira stood, straightening her uniform, "I suppose we're about to show the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength isn't our ability to copy advanced technology, it's our knack for finding shortcuts that nobody else thought to try." She picked up the humming device, still powered by its jury-rigged Earth technology. "Let's go greet our guests and show them how humanity does things differently." As they headed to the command center, Harrison's phone buzzed. He checked it and started laughing. "My daughter just texted. She and her robotics club took apart one of the anti-gravity modules from the scout ship. They rebuilt it using drone parts and now they're using it to build what they're calling a hovercart racing league in the high school parking lot." Zira didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "How fast are these hovercarts going?" "Faster than the original module," Harrison admitted. "They removed all the safety protocols because they were, quote, totally overcautious and slowing everything down." The Admiral shook her head, smiling despite herself. The Thalaxians were about to learn what happened when you gave human beings advanced technology and told them, that's just how it works. Because if there was one thing humans loved more than new technology, it was proving there was always a simpler way to make it work, preferably involving duct tape and spare parts from someone's garage. The silence in the United Earth Defense Council chamber was broken only by the soft whirring of Dr. Ravi Mehta's modified Thalaxian medical scanner, which he had somehow connected to his wife's old tablet. The assembled military and scientific leaders watched in amazement as he demonstrated his weekend project. So you see, Ravi explained, waving the cobbled-together device over a potted plant, their original medical scanner was amazing, but it was trying to do too much. It's like they built an entire hospital into each device. I just thought, why not make it modular? General Diana Torres, her silver hair pulled back in a tight bun, leaned forward. Dr. Mehta, are you telling me you simplified advanced alien medical technology using, what exactly? Oh, mostly parts from my kitchen, he said cheerfully. The main processor was too complex, so I replaced it with 3 smartphone chips working in parallel. The power supply was from my coffee maker, very efficient, actually. And the display interface? He grinned. That was inspired by my microwave's control panel. A holographic display sprang to life above the plant, showing its cellular structure in perfect detail. The original device needed a quantum computer to process this image. Mine does it with standard Earth processors and some clever coding I worked out while making dinner. From the back of the room, Dr. Lydia Novak, head of the Xenotechnology Integration Division, cleared her throat. The Thalaxian ambassador is demanding an explanation for why we're not using their medical technology as designed. Apparently, their sensors detected our modifications. Show them this, called out a voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Kira Patel, a bright-eyed graduate student, wheeling in what looked like a modified drink cart. We took their tissue regeneration system and made it portable. You did what? General Torres stood up so quickly her chair rolled backward. Kira patted the cart proudly. The original was the size of a room and needed enough power to run a small city. We figured out that most of that energy was being wasted on unnecessary processes. So we streamlined it, powered it with a modified solar cell, and now it's mobile. We're calling it the healing hotspot. Dr. Mehta walked over to examine the cart, nodding appreciatively. Is that a coffee maker on top? Of course, Kira beamed. If you're healing someone, you might as well be able to offer them a drink. Plus, the heating element helps maintain optimal temperature for the regeneration field. General Torres sank back into her chair, massaging her temples. So while the Thalaxian delegation is upstairs trying to negotiate a formal technology exchange program, we've already reversed engineered their medical tech, improved it, and made it more user-friendly, Kira finished. Oh, and it makes a great cappuccino. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent message from the diplomatic floor. The Thalaxian ambassador was requesting an immediate audience, having discovered that human hospitals were now using modified versions of their technology that were, in their words, impossibly efficient. Tell them I'll be right up, General Torres sighed, standing again. Dr. Mehta, Ms. Patel, you're with me. Bring your devices. If we're going to shock them with our innovations, we might as well do it properly. As they rode the elevator to the diplomatic floor, Kira couldn't help but grin. You know what's really going to bake their circuits? Tell them about my little sister's science fair project. Do I want to know? Torres asked. She took their genetic sequencing device, which they said was impossible to miniaturize, and rebuilt it using parts from her chemistry set and an old smartphone. Won first place. She's 12. The elevator doors opened to reveal a group of tall, elegant Thalaxians, their crystalline exoskeletons glowing with what humans had learned to recognize as extreme agitation. Behind them stood Admiral Blackwood, trying and failing to hide a proud smile. Perhaps, Torres whispered to her companions, we should wait to tell them about the hovercart racing league that's spreading to other high schools. Oh no, Kira whispered back, wait until they find out we're teaching their medical technology in community college night classes. My mom's learning it between her cooking lessons. As they approached the increasingly agitated alien delegation, Dr. Mehta pulled out his scanner one last time. Should I mention that this runs on a battery I modified while watching cooking videos? Let's ease them into it, Torres suggested, straightening her uniform. After all, we still haven't shown them what the engineering department did with their environmental systems. Apparently, someone figured out how to power them with recycled coffee grounds. The Thalaxian ambassador's crystalline structure pulsed with an array of colors that their cultural experts hadn't seen before. Humanity hadn't just adapted their technology, they had reimagined it entirely, using the kind of everyday objects that the Thalaxians had never considered relevant to advanced scientific development. And somewhere in a high school parking lot, the sound of hovercart engines echoed through the air, powered by alien technology that had been simplified by teenagers who thought the original design was way too extra. The Galactic Defense Council's emergency session was interrupted by the sound of music, specifically, what appeared to be a centuries-old Earth song called Sweet Home Alabama, transmitting through their quantum communication arrays. Ambassador Xylitha's bioluminescent patterns shifted to a deep purple of distress. Explain this, they demanded, their translator struggling to convey the mix of awe and horror in their voice. Dr. Olivia Walsh, Earth's chief quantum communications officer, tried to keep a straight face. Yes. That would be Marcus Jones. He runs an auto repair shop in Detroit. An auto repair shop? The ambassador's patterns flickered in confusion. He said our quantum communication system reminded him of an old CB radio setup, Olivia explained. So he modified it during his lunch breaks. Turns out the quantum field responds really well to classic rock frequencies. The ambassador's aide hurriedly displayed a holographic report. This Marcus Jones has improved quantum signal strength by 400%. It's impossible. Oh, that's nothing, Olivia said, pulling up her own data pad. Wait until you see what happened when he showed his work to his daughter Ruby. She's a DJ. The council chamber erupted in chaos as a new transmission cut through, a seamless blend of Earth music styles transmitted through quantum space, reaching every corner of the galaxy with perfect clarity. Ruby Jones's latest quantum remix was apparently trending on 37 worlds. Meanwhile, in a seemingly unrelated incident across the galaxy, the Thalaxian Defense Fleet was dealing with its own human-induced headache. Fleet Commander Zax 427 stared at the report before him, his crystalline form clouded with disbelief. They did what to our quantum shielding technology? Lieutenant Commander Iris Rodriguez, Earth's military liaison, cleared her throat. Well, sir, one of our maintenance technicians, Tom Wilson, noticed that your shield generators were using quantum fields in a way that seemed, in his words, kind of backward. Backward? Zax 427's crystals chimed in agitation. He said it was like trying to stop a bullet by building a wall across the entire country, Iris explained. So he reconfigured it to work more like a martial arts move, redirecting energy instead of just blocking it. The display showed the modified shield system, now using 70% less energy while providing 150% more protection. Tom had apparently figured it out while fixing his daughter's hoverboard, which he'd bought from that growing high school racing league. But the quantum calculations alone. Zax 427 began. Oh, he didn't bother with those, Iris said cheerfully. Said they were overthinking it. He just treated the quantum field like water in a pipe system. Fluid dynamics. He used to be a plumber. Before the commander could respond, another report came in. Someone on Earth had modified their quantum targeting systems using principles borrowed from video game aim assist algorithms. The accuracy had improved by 200%, and they'd added something called haptic feedback because it felt more natural. Back on Earth, in a converted warehouse that had become humanity's premier quantum research facility, largely because it had the best coffee machines, Dr. Walsh was meeting with an unusual think tank. Instead of traditional scientists, the room was filled with mechanics, artists, gamers, and hobbyists, people who looked at advanced alien technology and saw not its complexity, but its similarities to everyday things they understood. "So," said Ruby Jones, taking a break from her quantum DJ set, "I was thinking. If we can transmit music through quantum space this clearly, couldn't we use the same principle for faster-than-light travel?" "Actually," called out Tom Wilson from where he was tinkering with a shield generator, "I was thinking the same thing. It's kind of like surfing, right? Riding the quantum wave instead of fighting it." Dr. Walsh looked at her notes, then at the room full of innovative minds who approached the universe's most complex technology with the casual confidence of people who fixed cars and mixed music. They didn't see impossible barriers, they saw puzzles to solve between coffee breaks and oil changes. "The Galactic Council is not going to believe this," she muttered, just as another quantum transmission cut through. Someone had apparently figured out how to use the quantum field to optimize pizza delivery routing across the solar system. The truly frightening part wasn't that humans were modifying advanced alien technology, it was that they were doing it with the casual ease of people upgrading their smartphones. And somewhere in the galaxy, Marcus Jones was still broadcasting rock classics through quantum space, because as he put it, the universe could use a better soundtrack. The Garage Band Theory. The Intergalactic Technology Summit was supposed to be a formal affair. Instead, it had turned into what the humans called a show-and-tell session, much to the growing anxiety of the alien delegates. "And this," announced Raj Malhotra, a 16-year-old high school student, "is what happens when you combine your quantum propulsion system with principles from my mom's pressure cooker." The assembled alien scientists watched in horror as the teenager demonstrated a miniaturized faster-than-light drive that could fit in a backpack. One Arcturian physicist fainted when Raj mentioned he'd built it during spring break. "The efficiency readings are impossible," muttered a Centaurian engineer, their tentacles twitching nervously. "That's what my physics teacher said," Raj grinned. "But then I showed him how the quantum field compression works just like cooking rice under pressure. It's all about containing and directing energy, right?" Next to present was Jamie Rodriguez, a retired music teacher who had gotten bored during quarantine and decided to experiment with alien terraforming technology. She'd combined it with her understanding of sound waves and created what she called an environmental symphony. The original terraforming process took decades, she explained to the stunned audience. "But I noticed the energy waves were working against each other, like an orchestra out of tune. Once you harmonize them." She pressed a button on her modified conductor's baton, and the holographic display showed a barren planet transforming into a paradise in weeks rather than centuries. "I used the same principle I taught my students about harmony and resonance," Jamie shrugged. "The universe just needs the right conductor." The summit's organizers had to call a recess when they learned that a group of college students had turned their quantum computing lab into what they called a reality mixing studio, combining virtual reality gaming with actual quantum manipulation of spacetime. They were using it to host interstellar dance parties. The Council's Conundrum. The final Galactic Council session opened with what could only be described as resigned acceptance. Supreme Counselor Vex 9, their crystalline form dimmed with exhaustion, addressed the assembly. "In the 2 Earth years since humanity gained access to advanced technology, they consulted their notes, redesigned our quantum drives using cooking appliance principles, turned our communication systems into an interstellar entertainment network, miniaturized our medical technology to fit in their pockets, and somehow made everything more efficient while adding what they call user-friendly interfaces." Admiral Blackwood, Earth's representative, tried not to look too proud. "We just believe technology should be accessible and practical. Your species turned our most sophisticated quantum computer into something you call a quantum app store," another counselor pointed out. Well, yes, Blackwood nodded. Dr. Harrison's daughter thought the user interface was too complicated. She said, and I quote, "If my grandmother can't use it while video chatting with her book club, it needs work." The council chamber's holographic displays showed the latest human innovations: quantum-enhanced food delivery services, teenagers using modified alien tech for science fair projects, and somebody's grandmother actually using a quantum computer to run her virtual book club across 3 solar systems. "Perhaps," ventured one counselor, "we should consider that our approach to technology has been overly complex?" "That's what Marcus Jones said," Blackwood smiled. "Right before he turned the quantum field into the galaxy's biggest radio station." The final report was damning in its simplicity. Humanity hadn't just adapted alien technology, they'd democratized it, simplified it, and made it part of their everyday lives. They'd turned the most advanced scientific achievements in the galaxy into household appliances, teaching tools, and entertainment systems. "We have a final question," Supreme Counselor Vex 9 said. "Why do all your innovations include these cup holders?" "Oh, that's simple," Blackwood laughed. "Where else would we put our coffee while we're revolutionizing the galaxy?" The council chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. They hadn't just shared technology with humanity, they'd given them the tools to reshape the galaxy in their own image, one cup holder and user-friendly interface at a time. Somewhere in Detroit, Marcus Jones was still broadcasting rock classics through quantum space. Ruby was hosting the biggest quantum dance party the galaxy had ever seen, and high school students were racing quantum-modified hovercarts in parking lots across Earth. And in a small garage in suburban Detroit, Tom Wilson was looking at the latest alien defense system and saying, "You know, this kind of reminds me of my old pinball machine." The galaxy would never be the same, and that was probably for the better. After all, as Dr. Harrison liked to say, any sufficiently advanced technology is just waiting for someone to make it simpler. And humanity was very, very good at making things simpler, usually while adding cup holders. End.